Hello everyone. In this lesson, we are going to illustrate the chain rule. So this is an additional rule in differentiating a certain function. To be specific, we are going to differentiate composition of functions. So chain rule is a rule for composite functions. Now, in our previous lessons, nalaman natin kung papaano i-differentiate yung mga basic algebraic and some transcendental functions. Like for example, if meron tayong function na f of x equal to 3x squared minus 5x plus 2, okay, using the differentiation rules that we know, we will have f prime of x equal to, so the differentiate 3x squared, that will be 6x. Differentiate negative 5x, that is negative 5. Differentiate 2, that is 0. So therefore, the derivative will be 6x minus 5, right? And for example, we also have f of x equal to, suppose we have 4e raised to x. Using the differentiation rules again, we will have f prime of x equal to 4 times the derivative of e raised to x, which is still e raised to x, right? And another example, if we have f of x equal to, suppose we have 3 cosine x, the derivative will be, that is f prime of x equal to 3 times the derivative of cosine x, which is negative sine x. We will have negative 3 sine x. So dito, makikita natin na madali lang nating i-differentiate yung mga functions kasi alam natin yung rule na kailangan nating i-apply. Now, what if we have this function? Y equal to, suppose we have 2x squared plus 1 raised to 2. Okay, suppose we have that function. Now, if we are going to use the power rule here, okay, some may think na power rule yung appropriate rule na gagamitin to differentiate this one. Now, using the power rule, one might answer y prime equal to 2 times 2x squared plus 1 raised to 2 minus 1, which is 1. So we will have 2 times the quantity 2x squared plus 1 na lang. Now, if this is your answer, you are wrong. So this is a wrong answer. Because if we will try to expand this one, so expanding 2x squared plus 1 quantity raised to 2, you will have y equal to, that will become 4x raised to 4 plus 4x squared plus 1, right? Now, if we are going to differentiate this one, y prime is equal to 16x cubed plus, we have 8 x plus 0. So we have 16x cubed plus 8x. And if we are going to factor out 8x, because 8x is common to both terms, we will have 2x squared na lang plus 1. So we have 8x times the quantity 2x squared plus 1. And this answer is correct. Okay? Another way to solve this one is if we are going to use the product rule. We can have two factors, 2x squared plus 1 and 2x squared plus 1. Using the product rule, we will have, so the product rule states that the derivative of uv is equal to u dv plus v du, right? So this is your u, this is your v. So y prime will now be equal to u, which is 2x squared plus 1, times the derivative of v, which is 2x squared plus 1. So the derivative is just 4x, right? Plus, we have v is still 2x squared plus 1, and the derivative of u is 4x. Now, if you are going to add that one, we will have 8x times the quantity 2x squared plus 1, right? Which is just the same with this one. Now, using the product rule, you will get the correct answer. Okay? Now, what if we have the function y equal to 2x squared plus 1 raised to the power of 100. Now, in this case, if you are going to expand this one, medyo mahihirapan tayo. It will take time para matapos yung expansion. So, hindi siya advisable na gamitin. Now, if you will also use the product rule, mas lalong hindi siya doable, right? So, in this case, hindi natin siya, hindi doable yung pagdi-differentiate if we are going to expand, nor if we are going to do the product rule. And dito papasok ngayon yung chain rule. Si chain rule, kaya niyang i-differentiate ito. So, ano ba yung chain rule? So, here, the chain rule states that let f be a differentiable function of g and g be a differentiable function of x. Then, the derivative of f composed of g of x with respect to x. So this one is just the same with this one, f of g of x. That is equal to f prime of g of x times g prime of x. So as you can see here, yung derivative niya ngayon is yung derivative ng outer function. So our outer function is si f, right? So the derivative of the outer function, so this is our outer function, and you will multiply it by the derivative of the inner function. So as you can see here, there is composition of functions na naganap. So our inner function is c g of x. Siya yung pinasok natin sa f. So therefore, if you are going to differentiate these types of functions, you will first differentiate the outer function as a whole. Okay, like what we are doing sa mga basic differentiation rules, then we will multiply it by the derivative of the inner function. Okay, another way to state the chain rule is through this one. If y is a differentiable function of u and u is a differentiable function of x, then dy over dx, that is the derivative of y with respect to x, is equal to the derivative of y with respect to u times the derivative of u with respect to x. So dy over du is now the derivative of the outer function. So this is the outer function, and du over dx is just the inner function. They are just the same. Okay? So again, the chain rule states that the derivative of f of g of x, or composition of functions, is just equal to the derivative of the outer function as a whole. So here, we will apply the differentiation rules that we know. Okay? And you multiply it by the derivative of the inner function. Okay? So from that, we can actually generalize the power rule. So we have here the general power rule. The derivative of u of x to the power of n with respect to x is equal to, using the power rule, so we will bring down the exponent n here. So you have n times u of x raised to the power of n minus 1 times the derivative of u of x, because our inner function is u of x. Okay? The outer function is itong whole u of x to the power of n. Okay? So this is the derivative of the outer, and this is the derivative of the inner. Okay? Para mas maintindihan, let's consider the following examples. Number 1. Differentiate f of x equal to x squared plus 3x raised to the power of 4. Now, in this case, if this function is written as u to the power of 4, we can actually differentiate right away, right? Through power rule. But in this case, since we have x squared plus 3x raised to the power of 4, hindi natin magagamit yung power rule. So we will now apply the chain rule or the general power rule, because in this case, from x or from u, naging x squared plus 3x siya. Okay? And according to the chain rule, the derivative of the function, suppose dy over dx, is just equal to the derivative of the outer function times the derivative of the inner function. Always remember this one. Okay? Chain rule, what you're going to do is to take the derivative of the outer function times the derivative of the inner function. In taking the derivative of the outer function, we will leave the inner function alone, or we will not change the inner function. Now, in this case, again, si x or si yung u or yung x natin naging x squared plus 3x, because if this is written as x to the power of 4, of course, using the power rule, we can differentiate it right away. But again, yung x natin naging x squared plus 3x siya. So, hindi natin siya magagawa. So, in this case, we need to determine our inner function. So, yung inner function, siya yung pinalit natin sa x. And that is x squared plus 3x. Now, using this formula, the chain rule, the derivative now of our function f prime of x is equal to, so in this case, we will now apply the general power rule, differentiate now the outer function, which is x squared plus 3x raised to the power of 4, using the differentiation rules that you know na nalaman natin sa previous lessons. So in this case, we will apply the power rule. So we will bring down 4. Then leave the inner function alone. Do not change it. So we will just copy x squared plus 3x raised to the power of 4 minus 1, which is 3. Then we will differentiate the inner function, which is x squared plus 3x with respect to x. So we will now take the derivative of the inner function. So we are done with the outer function. Next is the inner function. Differentiate x squared plus 3x using the differentiation rules na alam natin. So we will now have 4 times x squared plus 3x raised to the power of 3. Then differentiate this one. So x squared is just 2x and 3x is just 3. So we now have this derivative. And this is now our final answer. Okay? So that's it. Again, in taking the derivative, we will differentiate the outer function times the derivative of the inner function. Another example para mas ma-master natin ito. So in this case, again, if this is just x, madali lang yang i-differentiate si x cube, right? Using the power rule. But again, si x naging 3x plus 7 all over x squared plus 1 siya. So we will now apply the general power rule or the chain rule. Okay? So we will now differentiate the outer function. So that is 3x plus 7 all over x squared plus 1 to the power of 3. So you will treat this one as one variable like x. So we will just bring down 3. So you have 3 times, you copy 3x plus 7 all over x squared plus 1. Okay, like the power rule that you know. Then we subtract 1 to the exponent. So we have 2. Then you multiply it by the derivative of the inner function. And what is our inner function? That is 3x plus 7 all over x squared plus 1. Okay? So now, from here, so okay na yung outer function natin, yung inner naman. We differentiate this one using product, quotient rule. So we will apply quotient rule here. Okay? So magko-quotient rule tayo. This will be our U. This is our V. Okay? So from that, we will now have y prime equal to 3 times, we copy this one, 3x plus 7 all over x squared plus 1, the power of 2, times. We do the quotient rule. So quotient rule is d of u over v. That is just v du minus u dv all over v squared, right? So v, so that is x squared plus 1 r- times the derivative of u. So derivative of 3x plus 7 is just 3. Okay. Minus, we have v, which is a u, which is 3x plus 7, times derivative of v, which is 2x, right? Derivative of x squared plus 1 is just 2x. All over the square of the denominator v. So you have x squared plus 1 raised to 2. Okay? Then after that, let's simplify. We will now have 3 times 3x plus 7 all over x squared plus 1 raised to the power of 2 times. We distribute. So this is 3x squared plus 3, right? Minus, we distribute. So you have 6x squared plus 14x all over. This is x squared plus 1 raised to the power of 2. Then after that, let's simplify further. We will now have y prime is equal to, we copy 3, then 3x plus 7 all over x squared plus 1 raised to the power of 2 um, times, we have 3x squared plus 3 minus, we distribute the negative sign. You have negative 6x squared and negative 14x all over x squared plus 1 raised to the power of 2. Okay? And take note, we can actually distribute the square here to both the numerator and denominator para makombine natin yung pwedeng makombine. We will now have 3 times 3x plus 7 squared all over x squared plus 1 raised to 2 times, we combine like terms, so that is negative 6x squared, right? No, negative 3x squared. So this should be negative 3x squared. Okay, and we have minus 14x plus 3 all over x squared plus 1 raised to the power of 2. Then we multiply the numerator and the denominator. We have 3 times 3x plus 7 raised to 2 times negative 3x squared. So ipagtabi nyo lang 4x plus 3 all over. So ito, we will have x squared plus 1 raised to the power of 4. And this is now our final answer. Okay? So that is our derivative. Okay, using the chain rule. Another example. Suppose we have this one. F of x equal to 2x plus 3 to the raised to the power of 3 times x squared minus 5 raised to the power of 2. So in this case, we can first use the product rule. So you will let this one as your u and this one as our v. And the product rule states that if we have the derivative of uv, that is just equal to u dv plus v du. Okay? So using the product rule, we have f prime of x that is equal to our u. So that is 2x plus 3. So you just copy the power of 3 times the derivative of x squared minus 5 raised to the power of 2. Okay? Plus v, so that is x squared minus 5 raised to the power of 2 times the derivative of u, which is 2x plus 3 raised to the power of 3. Now, observe that here, we are going to differentiate um, the, so we will differentiate our u, which is our v, x squared minus 5 raised to the power of 2. And in this case, we have a function raised to 2. So we will apply chain rule here. So mag-chain rule tayo dito. Chain rule. And also to this one, because we have a function raised to the power of 3. So mag-chain rule rin tayo dito. Okay? So what is our inner function? So the inner function is x squared minus 5 here. And here we have 2x plus 3. So using the chain rule, we will now have this is equal to, you copy 2x plus 3 raised to 3. So we will differentiate the outer function as a whole. So we have to bring down 2, so that is 2 times, you copy the inner function, do not change it, minus times x squared minus 5 raised to 2 minus 1, so that is just 1, so we have x squared minus 5 times the derivative of the inner function, which is x squared minus 5. So again, this one is the derivative of the inner function because we are applying the chain rule. Okay, plus we have copy x squared minus 5 squared times the derivative using the chain rule. So we have to bring down 3. So we have 3 times, you copy 2x plus 3. Then raised to the power of 3 minus 2, that is 3 minus 1 is, that is 2. Then you take the derivative of the inner function, which is 2x plus 3. So again here, ito yung ginamitan natin ng chain rule. Yan. At ito. Chain rule yan lahat. Okay? Now, let's continue. From that, we will now have, so we copy this, 2x plus 3 cube, then we have 2, then x squared minus 5. Derivative of x squared minus 5, that is just 2x, right? Then plus, we have x squared minus 5 squared. You copy 3. We also have 2x plus 3 raised to the power of 2. Derivative of 2x plus 3, that is just 2. Okay? Now, from that, we will now take the common factor. So, first, you will see here the common is si 2. Pwede nating ilabas si 2. So, you have here 2. So, this is 2. Then next, you can also see here x squared minus 5, right? So, yung mas maliit na exponent yung kukunin natin. So, we have x squared minus 5. Ayan. And we also have for 2x plus 3 to the power of 3. Yan. Okay? So, yung maliit na exponent yung kunin nyo. So, we have 2x plus 3 to the power of 2. So, we factor that out. So, yung matitira, you divide the whole expression or whole term by the common factor. So, this one divided by this. So, from that, mawawala yung 2. Si 2, lumabas si 2. So, this will be canceled. Ayan. Imaginary lang. Si x squared minus 5, mawawala rin. Ayan. And si 2x plus 3, nawala yung dalawa. Tatlo ito. So, isa na lang yung matitira. Okay? So, ang natira will be 2x and 2x plus 3. So, we now have here 2x times 2x plus 3. That is for the first term. Plus, the second term naman, si 2 mawawala. So, ito mawawala. Ayan, kasi may 2. Next, si x squared minus 5. Dalawa ito, so nawala yung isa, so mawawala ito. So isa na lang yung matitira. And we have 2x plus 3 squared. Meron din dito squared, so mawawala yan. Okay? So yung natira is si 3 at si x squared minus 5. So therefore, we will now have here 3 times x squared minus 5. Ayan. Then let's simplify. This will now be 2 times x squared minus 5. 2x plus 3 raised to 2. And this is, you distribute. We have 4x squared plus 6x. You distribute. We have 3x squared minus 15. And we now have the final answer, 2 times x squared minus 5. You have 2x plus 3 raised to 2. And we simplify. This is 4x squared plus 3x squared. That is 7x squared plus 6x minus 15. And this will now be our final answer. Okay? So that's it. Let's have another example. Suppose we have 2x times e raised to the power of 4x. So as you can see here, we have two factors again. You can have this one as your first factor, and this is your second factor. So you can let this as your u, and this is your v. And from that, we can apply the product rule. Okay, applying the product rule, we will have u. So you have 2x times the derivative of v, which is e raised to the power of 4x. Ayan. Then plus your v, which is e raised to the 4x, times the derivative of u, which is 2x. Now, from here, um, e raised to the 4x, what we only know is yung derivative ng e raised to x. So, yung x natin naging 4x. So, therefore, there is already composition of functions na naganap. So, therefore, from that, we will apply here the chain rule. Okay? So, dito tayo mag-chain rule. Okay? On the other hand, yung isa naman, si 2x, madali lang yan kasi 2x. Right? So, madali lang siyang ma-differentiate. So, dito lang tayo mag-chain rule. So, from that, we will now have, so the derivative is just 2x times, so we will differentiate this one as a whole. So, derivative of e raised to the power of 4x. So, you will treat 4x as one variable. So, we will have e raised to the power of 4x because the derivative of e raised to x is e raised to x, right? So we treated 4x as one variable. So that is the outer function. So e raised to the power of 4x pa rin siya. And we will multiply it by the inner function. The inner function here is si 4x. Kasi siya yung nag-substitute sa x natin dito. Okay? So, ito ngayon yung chain rule natin. Okay? So, from here to here, that is our chain rule. Okay? Then, u plus e raised to the power of 4x times derivative of 2x is just 2. Okay? So, from that, we now have 2x e raised to 4x. Derivative of 4x is just 4. Right? Plus e raised to the power of 4x times 2. Now, kunin natin yung mga common factor. We have 2 and e raised to the power of 4x. So, ilabas natin sila. 2 e raised to the power of 4x. Yung matitira will be 4 times x. So, you have 4x. And dito, wala na. So, we have 1. And this will now be our final answer. So, yun. Madali lang siya. Okay? Last example. Suppose we have a trigonometric function. We have sine squared of 3x to the power of 4. Now, in this case, Take note that sine squared x can be written as sine x raised to the power of 2. So therefore, we can rewrite this one as sine of 3x to the power of 4 to the power of 2. So from that, you can see here that a function is raised to the power of 2. So therefore, there is already composition of functions involved. So we will apply the chain rule. So our inner function here is itong sine of 3x to the power of 4. Okay? So we will now use the chain rule. So mag-chain rule tayo. This is our inner function. So from that, we can apply the general power rule. Ibababa natin tong exponent, right? So we will now have um, y prime equal to, so baba natin si 2. Then we multiply it by sine of 3x to the power of 4. So you leave the inner function alone. Do not change it because we are still differentiating the outer function. Okay? Raised to the power of 2 minus 1, and that is just 1. And we will multiply it by the derivative of the inner function. And our inner function is this one. So we have sine of 3x to the power of 4. Okay? So that is our chain rule. Now, observe here that we have sine of 3x to the power of 4. We only know the derivative of sine x. Right? If that is sine x, then madali lang. But again here, si x naging 3x to the power of 4 siya. So therefore, there is again a composition of function. So here, mag-a-apply ulit tayo ng chain rule. So again dito, mag-chain rule ulit tayo because of this inner function. Okay, so dalawang beses nating ginamit yung chain rule. As long as there is an inner function, mag-chain rule tayo. Mag-chain rule tayo ulit. Okay? So, gagamitan natin siya ng chain rule as long as there is an inner function. Okay? So, from that, we will now have 2. You copy this. Sine of 3x to the power of 4. Okay? So, the derivative of sine is just cosine, right? So, we will multiply it by cosine of 3x to the power of 4. So you leave the inner function alone. Okay? Then we will multiply it by the derivative of the inner function 3x to the power of 4. Okay? And from that, 3x to the power of 4, kaya nyo yan, yun na yang i-differentiate. Right? So we have 2 times sine of 3x to the power of 4. Okay. We also have cosine of 3x to the power of 4 times the derivative of 3x to the power of 4 is just 12x cubed. Okay, then simplifying, we now have 2 times 12x cubed, so that is 24x cubed. And you multiply, ipagtabi nyo lang, sine of 3x to the power of 4 cosine of 3x to the power of 4. And from that, this is now our final answer. Okay? So that ends our discussion on the topic chain rule. I hope meron tayong na learn dito and I hope alam niyo na kung paano gagamitin yung chain rule. Thank you for watching. So that is our chain rule. Now, observe here that we have sine of 3x to the power of 4. We only know the derivative of sine x, right? If that is sine x, then madali lang. But again here, si x naging 3x to the power of 4 siya. So therefore, there is again a composition of function. So here, mag-a-apply ulit tayo ng chain rule. So again, dito, mag-chain rule ulit tayo because of this inner function. Okay, so dalawang beses nating ginamit yung chain rule. As long as there is an inner function, mag-chain rule tayo. Mag-chain rule tayo ulit. Okay? So gagamitan natin siya ng chain rule as long as there is an inner function. Okay? So from that, we will now have 2. You copy this. Sine of 3x to the power of 4. Okay, so the derivative of sine is just cosine, right? So we will multiply it by cosine of 3x to the power of 4. So you leave the inner function alone. Okay? Then we will multiply it by the derivative of the inner function 3x to the power of 4. Okay? And from that, 3x to the power of 4, kaya nyo yan, yun na yang i-differentiate. Right? So we have 2 times sine of 3x to the power of 4. Okay. We also have cosine of 3x to the power of 4 times the derivative of 3x to the power of 4 is just 12x cubed. Okay, then simplifying, we now have 2 times 12x cubed, so that is 24x cubed. And you multiply, ipagtabi nyo lang, sine of 3x to the power of 4, cosine of 3x to the power of 4. And from that, this is now our final answer. Okay? So that ends our discussion on the topic chain rule. I hope meron tayong na learn dito and I hope alam niyo na kung paano gagamitin yung chain rule. Thank you for watching.